I've never been this shocked or at a loss for words in my entire life. I'm angry, I'm humiliated, and I'm feeling wronged. I know that something is not right, but I can't even think straight. I'm consumed by anxiety and the insults rained upon me by my own family. I have no one to turn to, no one who could possibly believe me. At first I wrote this in my diary, but I got no answers there. I got no encouragement or comfort, just my own words thrown back at me. After thinking about it and realizing that I had nothing left to lose anymore, I decided to post on here. So I'm Ella, 31, and I used to have the perfect family. Married to my husband Greg with a 3-year-old daughter and a successful career. My life is pretty uneventful. My husband and I both come from good families, and he has a reputable business, and his parents always praise us for the well-balanced life that we lead, which is different from his siblings Ethan and Mallory. See, Ethan is Greg's fraternal twin, but a less ambitious version of my husband. Ironically, he's married to a very ambitious woman, my sister-in-law Rose, and they have a 2-year-old daughter. Rose loves luxury and is always trying to compete with me. Little does she know that we're all well aware of how they lived beyond their means. Due to this, there's a one-sided rivalry between us. Lastly, there's Mallory, the wild child who does not care about family or marriage. Mallory is wild, cares about the environment, and has a lot more partners than one can even count. She doesn't believe in having kids or marriage, which gave my mother-in-law a headache. At every single family gathering, mother-in-law brings it up to Mallory and uses us as a good example, but of course Mallory does not care. There are other cousins as well, but they're not really relevant to what happened a couple of days ago. We have weekly Sunday dinners at Greg's grandparents' house every single Sunday without fail. Last Sunday was no different. All 20 plus of us were present. The only people who could not make it were out of state. Before dessert, while everyone was having conversations, mother-in-law interrupted us before she had an important announcement to make. She reminded us how some days ago she asked for DNA samples of all the grandchildren that we have given. I remembered that she requests something so strange, DNA test? But the family has a tendency to do some weird things, so as long as my daughter was not harmed, then it's fine with me. Days later, mother-in-law announced that she's requesting those samples from her grandkids because Grandpa needs to finalize his will since he is now on his deathbed. I was not surprised because Grandfather is very old now. He rarely came out of his room because he was always unwell, and I knew this was coming one day. But to request that his grandkids be verified was a bit extreme. Having said that, mother-in-law said that she had the results and began to read out the kids and their paternity. One by one, she confirmed that they were part of the family. It was all incredibly boring, and I ended up going on my phone. I got so distracted that when everyone stopped talking and looked at me, my husband nudged me. Immediately, I apologized for being on my phone, but my mother-in-law frowned and asked if that was the only thing that I was sorry about. I asked her to clarify, and she asked me why the test results proved that my daughter was not my husband's. It took me a while to register her words, and when they did, I instinctively laughed because she had to be joking. She tells me to stop laughing and explain my infidelity. Well, obviously, I forced a smile and asked her to be a bit more respectful, because I did not appreciate being accused of something so ridiculous. Out of the blue, Rose shoves a paper in my face and boastfully told me to look at it. So slowly, I read through it, but it did not make any sense to me. I was married to Greg and loyal to him. Only, there was no way that this piece of paper was saying that he was not the father of our baby. I slammed the paper on the table and angry told them that the prank was not funny. Greg spoke for the first time and softly said that it was not a prank. I looked into his eyes, hoping that he would believe me over the crazy people, but they were so closed off I tried to touch him, but he stood up and walked away. I tried to get up to follow him, but Rose grabbed my hand and yanked me back onto my seat. She told me to explain myself because they were all waiting for an explanation as to why I had cheated. I tried to explain to them that it was a mistake, but they would not have it. They hurled insults at me no woman should ever have to bear, and I took them. I ended up crying, but they didn't stop. They wanted to shake me for answers, but I had no one because this was all news to me. Unfortunately, my tears did not help, and they accused me of crying crocodile tears. So there I sat as my good character was spit on. I could not move, and eventually my mother-in-law told me to leave her parents' house. I tried to call Greg, but his phone went straight to voicemail, and to top it all off, he had taken the car with him. As I sat there trying to order a ride, Rose came up to me, and she said that, it was sad how the mighty, had fallen. She made fun of me for always acting holier than thou when I was a filthy woman. I told her to leave me the hell alone, but she warned me to be nice to her because she was considering giving me a ride. After her words, I looked at her and told her I would rather walk. With that, I walked away from the house. It was about 30 minutes when I finally got to the bus stop, and by then my tears ran dry. When I got home, he packed his bags and left without even leaving a note. So I called him up, but the calls did not go through. So I fetched our daughter from my friend's house, and I didn't tell her everything that happened, just what we had, which was a big argument, and my marriage could be over. She was so kind to me and cooked me some food while I cried. I went home the next day, and when I got there, his mom had come to fetch his work documents. She told me that he did not want to be in the same room as me and to expect divorce papers soon. A day later, he invited me for a coffee so that we could discuss our marriage. He asked me who the other man was, but I could not produce a name for him out of thin air. He told me that if I told him who it was, he would consider forgiving me. My only answer was that there was an error with the test result. To that, he tells me that his parents used the best lab in town, so how could they have made a mistake? Well, I didn't have an answer for that. In fact, I found myself going into shock and being unable to answer at all. Even when he told me that he was going to leave, but we were not done talking, I could not find a way to speak. I was truly and utterly in shock, and I've not seen him since, but I've been thinking about what to do next. The next step would be to get another test, obviously, but where will I get his DNA? I've read stories about it happening on here. Why would it be so far-fetched? I mean, come on, guys. Think about it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that there was an error at the lab. The other possible explanation is too dark for me to accept it. What if our daughter is not mine as well? Which is why we share no DNA with my husband. I mean, it's possible. Like I said, I've read some pretty crazy stories. Why would it be so far-fetched? I mean, guys, come on. Think about it. I'm not really sure what to do next. Do I demand another DNA test, even if it starts to anger him? He seems pretty convinced that I'm a liar, and I'm lying to him, and, well, I don't blame him too much because he's a logical man who doesn't let emotions drive his choices, and I am absolutely torn. Please help. Update number 1. Hey guys, it's me again. A month after my entire life fell apart, how am I doing? Much better than I thought I would be. Some days are harder than others, but I'm going through it. I'm sure you've been wondering what I ended up doing, right? Well, let me tell you. I've done nothing so far, and there's a reason to that. I think that it's too soon for me to just go out and do anything about it, really. Because every time I mention what happened, Greg shuts down. It is his natural response to trauma, and the best thing to do is let him be. I don't want to ruin the dynamic that we have going on right now, so I'll wait. In the meantime, we're separated. He comes to the house every once in a while to see Layla and is civil with me. Completely. He still does things like mow the lawn and send me money for Layla's expenses, and this gives me hope that he'll come around one day and we'll do a test. Until then, I'm grateful for how he's been acting. He's extremely kind towards me and has not filed for divorce yet. Even though I fear it'll happen one of these days, my exchange with my sister-in-law this afternoon makes me convinced that the day is coming soon. My perfect marriage is surely going to crumble, and she'll be so satisfied. When I see her this afternoon at the grocery store, I tried to walk the other way, but she had already seen me. She followed me and told me that I looked like I had let go of myself. She told me that I better start looking pretty again because the dating scene will be difficult to navigate. If I have a child, well, my response was that I had no interest in re-entering it. So then she asked if I had gotten back with my daughter's real father since I was not concerned. Anger started to rise deep within me, so I decided to walk away. But Rose would not have it. She followed me from aisle to aisle, telling me that Greg was going to leave me. She said that I needed to be humbled since I acted like I was better than her. By then, I was already fed up, so I angrily told her to leave me alone and get a life. I told her that, even at my absolute lowest, I was less miserable than her because I didn't want my nose in other people's business. In addition, I told her that Greg was still spending time with me and Layla and being a good father, yet her husband still preferred the local bar over her. Ooh, burn. Oh, and you should have seen the way her eyes got as big as a saucer as she told me that I knew nothing about her marriage. She promised me that I was going to lose everything and be in a worse position than her. But I just acted completely unfazed. The truth is that I'm afraid, especially since about an hour ago I get a text from Greg. He says that he wants to meet in 2 weeks to talk about a way forward. A part of me feels absolute dread because I know there's no way that he'll take me back. His family would lose it if he did that, and I'm sure that he's going to want a divorce. But I'm not worried. If we're going to start the process, then I can have a court-mandated DNA test. Once the truth is revealed, he's going to take me back, and we will happily be a family once again. Update number 2, 2 weeks later. I've just come back from dinner with Greg, and I am absolutely flabbergasted. There's so many thoughts swirling in my head right now, and so much absolute confusion. I feel like I've woken up in an alternate universe. Nothing seems to make sense right now, and I need you to make sense of it for me. So I met with him for dinner at one of our favorite restaurants tonight. I left Layla with my mom and will fetch her tomorrow after work because I needed to give him my full undivided attention. Once I was seated, we had a normal dinner, and he did not tell me why he called me, and I just decided to let him take the lead even though I was extremely nervous. The conversation was light and full of happiness, which I felt was a distraction tactic. I could already feel that he was about to drop a bomb on me. Finally, he told me that he had something to tell me as, we were eating our dessert. I asked him to continue as I waited with bated breath. He told me that, first of all, he wanted to say that I give him the best of his years of his life by being his wife. He said he had no complaints at all, and he appreciated how I always supported him. Afterward, he told me that he was very heartbroken when he found out that Layla was not his, and he thought he would never ever heal. It was indeed the ultimate betrayal. It hurt even more when I would not tell him who the father of the baby was. He then told me that something had been revealed to him which gave him answers, and he was no longer mad at me. Of course, I had to interrupt him and asked, well, what has been revealed to him that made him suddenly not so angry at me? He told me that he could not tell me what, he would reveal it in a later stage. But, that was not important, he said. He then showed me his hand, which had a ring on it. I asked why he was showing me his ring. Was he getting married again? Well, he simply laughed and told me that he wanted me to be his wife again. He wanted to forget all this and just restart on a clean slate. Of course, I obviously had so many questions and reservations, but he told me not to worry. He said that he knew everything he needed and was not about to lose a good wife over a mistake. I couldn't help but cry from his words. They meant a lot to me. I know that I never betrayed him, but for him to still love me and want me to be his wife, it's just so overwhelming. Right now, that's all I can focus on, and my infectious happiness after what he said. We're getting back together, and his family is going to choke after this. I can't wait to see the look on Rose's face when I come back into the picture. She really thought that our marriage was weak like hers? Stupid woman. Of course, I'm still bothered about the test results, but I'll accept it as a lab error. The important thing is that he loves me and wants to be a good husband and father. I can't contain my happiness. This was definitely not in the bingo cards. Update number 3. The other shoe dropped only a month after my husband took me back. To be honest, I was not expecting what was revealed tonight. It was a secret worthy of a book, and I got the front row seats. Yeah, it's been a month since my husband took me back, and the family's not happy about it. They can't fathom why he took me back, and to be honest, neither can I. But I make sure to act as if there's something I know that they do not, just to keep the upper hand. Things in our marriage have surprisingly gone back to normal. And we're now in our honeymoon stage again. Some time ago, an invitation for the annual family Thanksgiving dinner arrived. When I saw the invite, I refused to attend. I couldn't imagine dealing with them again and just staring and the whispering and being treated like an outsider. My husband insisted that I attend and be dressed in the finest clothing, so I agreed, but I refused to bring our daughter, which he did not object to. The day of the Thanksgiving dinner arrived, and it was, going pretty great. Just kidding, it went as expected. They were mean to me and gave me nasty looks, and I wanted to leave, but Greg told me to stay because something was about to happen. Since I obviously love drama, just like any other person, I stayed, and I was not disappointed at all. Once the dinner was in full swing, Greg stood up and said that he wants to make a toast to me. He wanted to thank me for always being a good, loyal wife. Well, obviously the words baffled me, and I suspected that he was planning to, a revenge plot against me or something. The way that he was acting was too suspicious for my comfort. Rose made a face when he called me loyal, but he carried on. He said that I was the most beautiful, smart, intelligent woman that he's ever known. He also said that he then discovered Layla was not his. He couldn't believe it. He didn't. He questioned me and asked me for a name, but I gave none. Something told him that there was something amiss, so he secretly had another test done, which proved that he was Layla's father. He did the test 2 more times with 2 different labs, which proved the same thing. He is the father. Well, everybody was shocked by this news and just stared at each other. He carried on and told us that he decided to take me back and investigate. His investigation yielded results that proved that the test results had been switched. At that point, my mother-in-law told him to get to the point. He said that the way Rose and his brother started acting was suspicious. He suspected it was them. So he pulled some strings and got the real test results concerning their daughter, which proved she was not his brother's. I gasped. Absolutely flabbergasted. Immediately, I pointed at his brother and asked if he knew this. He nodded and said yes, and asked Rose to make sure the child would be his on the test results because they used a sperm donor. They didn't want the family to know because they feared being cut out of the inheritance if somebody found out. He swore that he never asked Rose to tamper with Layla's test results, though. As you can imagine, all hell broke loose at this whole family point, and they started questioning Rose left and right, who was in tears over being caught. She could not even form a proper sentence because she was shaking so much. Well, Greg's brother, on the other hand, kept on trying to pin it on her, which only made her shout at him and call him infertile. Luckily, one of our uncles separated the two, and the rest of the dinner was a disaster, with people treating them as I had been treated. Mother-in-law ended up telling all of us to go home. She said that only the older people of the family could remain to discuss this matter with Rose and Ethan. I'm not an elder, apparently, so therefore I had to leave with my husband, who has been taking turns answering phone calls all night because everybody wants the tea. I'll give you more tea if anything happens, guys, but for now, goodbye. Update number 4. 2 months later. Hey guys, it's been 2 long months since Rose and her husband got caught, and they're still in the middle of trouble. Their problems are not going to end anytime soon, I promise you that. And I'm glad about it. I was wrongfully punished by their lies, obviously. I would have no pity for them. Anyways, these are the series of events that leading up to what we're at now. First of all, they had to deal with the family elders who were not happy with them. Choosing to use a sperm donor because my brother-in-law cannot have kids was not the problem, but they should have said something when the samples were taken to save time. Mother-in-law said that it would not have been a problem at all. The problem came when they tried to conceal the truth and lie to the whole family. All because of greed. Because of their greed, an innocent woman was embarrassed and nearly lost her marriage. Come on. For that, the family was displeased with them. They were told that a suitable punishment would be given to them, but myself and my husband had every right to retaliate. Retaliate we did. There was no way that we were going to walk away unscathed. We decided to take the legal route when dealing with them. We opened a case against them for tampering with the test results and also sued for emotional distress. They tried to plead innocence, but various family members supported us and testified. Putting together the testimony as well as the evidence, they were found guilty. Very, very guilty. They had to pay us roughly $100,000, emotional damage and others, and also got 2 months in prison each as well as a 1-year suspended sentence. Brother-in-law's going to serve his sentence first because the judge took pity on them for having a daughter. Rose is out, but she has been very scarce. I wonder what this means for their marriage because during the hearings they threw each other under the bus several times. The entire family was witness to the cracks in their marriage showing, and I knew it wasn't perfect, but I never knew how much loyalty they lacked for each other. Anyone who was in a stable marriage will tell you that it's important to be a team. It appears that the only time they have been a team is when they were trying to scheme their way into a bigger chunk of the inheritance. Other than that, they're mirrors to each other, selfish to the core. I feel sorry for their daughter who has to be raised by them. They have a very messed up idea about what family is supposed to be. And that's why they'll always hate on me and my husband. I'm not saying that Greg and I are perfect, guys, but we're definitely more resilient. We faced a huge test but managed to weather through. Is that not true dedication? Let me know what you guys would have done.